A lot of rappers still, it seems like, want to be Tupac. They want to have his popularity. They want people to love them like everyone loves him. But why do you think no one's succeeding?
Well, because this is what they fail to realize about Tupac. In order for them to be Tupac, they would have to die before they peaked. Right before they peaked, they would have to die. So if you don't die, you can't do it. Bottom line, if you don't go die, you're not gonna be the next Tupac, because it ain't gonna be the next Tupac. Straight up.
If Bishop and Juice was a reflection of young black male today, I wouldn't be honest if I didn't show another reflection. Lucky is doing it the opposite way the Bishop did. He's working, he's very responsible.
No stars, no overpaid A&Rs, no bodyguards, no gold teeth, no East Coast, West Coast beats.
How are you looking at that?
I blame it.
Like a grown man, he's saying something about a grown man acting like a child. Do you think society at large is the blame for his being misled and misguided like that, or is it his fault, or who do we focus on, or are you trying to make somebody wake up, or how is this all working? You take Tupac out there, who started out with Digital Underground and was on a funk trip, and then he started thug life and representing all the cats in the hood, and the music industry got to him, and fame and the whole thing, man. He ended up in the pen.
Well, Pac, to me, like I said, Digital Underground and Pac, we rolled them out on their first national tour, 1990. I remember Pac and Tretch, they broke in on the tour as rookies, carrying bags and, being roadies. That's what you had to do in your first year in. You didn't pop to be a superstar or on the first, thing. So, right. Pac, earned his stripes like everybody else. And he always was smarter than everybody around him. Now, that's one public perception that I don't think got across, that he was smarter than everybody around him. But people's parents also tell you, they don't tell you corny things just to be corny. They say, hey, watch the crowd you running with.
Right.
That ain't something that just popped up out of, just because I popped out of the clear blue sky. No, watch the crowd you running with. Pac was a concerned person reaching down in the trenches to pull people up.
Right.
But there was so many in the trenches, they end up pulling them down because you didn't have enough people to pull him up. So in that particular scenario, how do I look upon it? I looked at America favored the thug side of Pac instead of the militant side of Pac that he first came out with. And then even when Pac was in Poetic Justice, people was quick to say, oh man, it was like the movie was corny and he was in a corny role, when he had a job and he was trying to stay right, and they gave him more props to being the psycho kid in Juice. And then on what's the one, Above the Rim, and when he was trying to do something straight, every black, a lot of black cats was saying, oh man, he came corny in that one because it was a corny flick. And my whole thing is like this. It's like, being on the plus side is like climbing a mountain. It takes energy. It takes effort. Being negative goes along with the American program because they always been on some killer nigga-ish.
One of the things about Pac, though, just because you brought him up, one of the last things that he did was he held that press conference, him, Hammer, and Snoop.
Right.
And he said he was going to take all his people and start getting them all politicized.
Exactly.
He said, man, we're gonna take this Thug Nation and start getting them to go vote.
Right.
And then, 2 months later, he was out of here.
Right. Well, one thing, Pac didn't kill himself.
Yeah.
So it wasn't suicide. And so, it was, when people talk about, well, he was this, he was that, he didn't kill himself.
And plus,
he got killed.
They got some article in Smoking Gun about the FBI surveillance that has now been released on him.
Right.
That they was following him and Easy. So he was on some next. I think they were scared of Pac.
Yeah, of course, because Pac had, like I said, he brought more sense to the game of anybody in his age category.
Right.
He came from a background that actually wasn't just militant, just an action, but it was it was a lot of heady stuff. But he kind of felt, and then this is a trap that a lot of young people fall in. It's like, well, the only way I could communicate with a lot of heads is I gotta act and be like them. But see, that's a trap that sometimes if you try to act and be like them so much, instead of you pulling cats up, the whole scene could be pulling you down and in without nobody pulling you up.
Yo, YouTube, what up? It's your homie Gab. I'm in the building. And this is Makaveli Media. So Chuck D was on with Malcolm X disciples. And he said basically that Tupac was rewarded for portraying a gangster more than he was for being a militant, or even just the average Joe. If you look at Tupac's movie career, he used Juice and Poetic Justice as an example. He said if you looked at the reception of the two characters that Tupac played, society embraced Bishop, which was a psychopath, a psychotic killer, more than they did Lucky, who was a decent, law-abiding citizen. And as a 25-year-old who got to see what was more lucrative in his career, the Tupac probably leaned towards more the gangster side than he did the more down-to-earth, the more caring, the more conscious side. And I just thought that was very interesting because Chuck D is a voice in hip-hop that people not only respect, but people also turn to for his wisdom. To hear him basically say that society, the fans, the public, and the media all put the battery pack in Tupac's back to basically abandon the more conscious side and embrace the more gangster side. And ultimately, that's what led to Tupac's death. These are Chuck D's words. You know, Chuck D would also go on to say that Tupac understood if he wanted to reach certain individuals, he had to speak their language. He had to come to them on their terms. But he said the problem was when you reach down to pull people up, sometimes those people can bring you down unless you got people behind you that can pull you back up. I believe there is some truth to what he said, because if you're trying to sell a book, you would want the book to be appealing to the people to which you're trying to sell it to. If you went to Romania and you was trying to, sell your product, you wouldn't go over there speaking Japanese. You would at least have, some translation to how they talk. And, if Tupac wanted to reach the young black male in our community, it couldn't be all one-sided. And you hear Tupac talked about the difference between a bishop and a Lucky in his own words. He said it would be unreal for him just to show one side of our culture without representing the other. In all fairness, I totally agree and I get it. But I remember firsthand people being a lot of disappointed with Tupac's role in Poetic Justice. Not let down because it was still a great movie, but it was totally different than what he gave us in Juice. And as an actor, I get it. He wanted to show he was multifaceted and that, he could portray different characters. I get it. But without a doubt, one was definitely more embraced than the other one. Did Tupac let the thug roles and the gangster roles go to his head? Ultimately, did that cost him his life? Playing to the crowd? trying to give the people what they want because he knew that's what the people loved and admired about him? I don't know, man. Tell me what you think. Is what Chuck D saying is truthful? Or do you disagree? Leave your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to sub to the channel. This is Makaveli Media. It's been a pleasure as always. I'm your homie Gab. I'm signing off. I'm about to hit y'all with the peace.